Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Natalie, and today we're going to be talking about a very important topic. That is 10 types of relationships you need to avoid. There are certain relationships that are toxic to your very well-being. Research has shown that the kind of relationships you have in your life can either improve the quality of your life or reduce it drastically to the point of reducing your lifespan. It is important that you're intentional about the kind of relationships you have in your life and the kind of people you allow into your life. I've done a video to show you how to cultivate healthy relationships, and I'm going to link it to this video so you can see it immediately after this one. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to be sharing with you 10 types of relationships to avoid. Now, the beauty of the things I'm going to be sharing with you is that it works either in friendships or even your romantic relationships. These are principles, well researched, tried and tested principles that will help you leave those kind of relationships that do not improve the quality of your life. So let's go. 10 relationships to avoid. The first one is avoid relationships where you cannot express yourself authentically. This is so important. Have you found out that when you're around certain people, you have to edit yourself? You have to either shrink, become smaller. You cannot really tell people how you feel. You cannot tell people what's really going on in your life, the good things, probably even the bad, because you cannot be your most authentic self. You're scared of being judged. You're afraid of, being your truest, most authentic self. You're afraid of sharing how you really feel, your opinions, what is inside your head, your thoughts on certain issues. You do not feel safe enough to do that. Guess what? You shouldn't even be there in the first place. Any kind of relationship that makes you edit yourself, any kind of relationship that makes you shrink, that makes you feel small, where you cannot express yourself most authentic self, then there is a problem with that relationship and it's not something you want to remain in. The second tip is avoid relationships where you feel tolerated. I don't know why many of us are drawn to people who tolerate us. I think probably it's because some of us grew up with really critical parents, and when you grow up with really critical parents, you find out that, or caregivers or people in our life in some position of authority who constantly made us to prove ourselves, who constantly made us earn their love. So guess what happens in our adult lives? We'll find out that we're constantly drawn to people who do not maybe approve of us, or who we have to somewhat work for their approval. You have to probably walk on eggshells, you have to do the extra, you can't say no, you can't set boundaries because you don't want to lose their approval. It's strange, yes, but if you check your life, or if you check your past relationships, you probably may have been in such situations, especially if you had the kind of childhood I just spoke about. You deserve to feel loved and appreciated. You should not be in places where you feel tolerated. You should not be in places where you feel like, they're just giving you the dregs, and that you should be thankful to even be associated with me. Guess what? I have been in such dynamics where one person, even though they are not so all that, but to them they are everything. But then they give you this impression that you should be thankful that you are associated with me. Let me tell you what that does to you. It makes you want to prove yourself more. It makes you want to do more. And in most times, you realize that you're usually the giver in the relationship and they're the taker. But somehow you feel grateful for their time and their attention. That is so unhealthy. You are a worthy human being. You do not need to earn your worthiness or your approval. It is so important that we learn to only be in spaces where we feel appreciated, valued, loved, and seen. Really seen for who we truly are. Number three, avoid relationships where there are no standards or expectations. Now, I know people usually say things like, oh, don't be entitled to anybody's time, don't be entitled to anybody's help. Hey, if you're my friend, I have expectations, I have standards that I expect you to meet. I don't expect my friends to be disloyal, right? I am not going to excuse it and say, oh, they're just being friends. I remember watching a movie once, and there were a couple of girls in the movie. It was a Nigerian movie, And then I noticed they will come together and gossip about one person, and these other ones will come and gossip about the other person and trash that person to the barest minimum. And then they come back and start acting all friendly. And I'm like, why do you people do this to each other? And then if this one finds out what the other one said and then cries and then they come back together, that's really, really toxic, right? That's extremely toxic. Relationships shouldn't be so stressful and difficult and painful, okay? It is important that we learn that it is okay to have standards and expectations in relationship. You should expect your friends to support you, and they should expect you to do the same. I should be able to expect my friend to be attentive to me. I should be able to expect my friend to be there for me, because I'm going to also be there for them. I should be able to expect that my friend will be there for me in the good times, in the bad times, through it all. And I should be able to expect that my friends will respect me. If I don't have those expectations, if there are no expectations, if there are no standards, then what are we doing with ourselves? I don't think that relationship is healthy. And if you're in such dynamic, you should probably have a good conversation with that person. Or maybe this is the universe's way of telling you it's time to let that person go. The fourth type of relationship to avoid is the type that has competition. You need to avoid places where you feel like you're constantly competing. Who has the better job? Who has the better car? Who has the better husband? Who has the better wife? Who has the better girlfriend? Who has the better boyfriend? Who has the better shoes? Who has the better bags? Because this thing is so unhealthy. The best person to compete with is against yourself and against the person you were yesterday, and you're becoming a better person every day. You don't know the full story of anyone, and they don't know your full story too. So it is unhealthy and unwise to pit your life unconsciously, consciously, in whatever way against the next person and try to live on their terms. It doesn't work. It's not healthy. It's not going to get you anywhere in the long run. So it is so important that you start avoiding relationships where you feel like there's some competition. Some of us have friends who are always trying to outshine us, who are always trying to, let's say you tell them, I got a promotion at work. They quickly try to bring something else to quickly douse that and tell you, oh, they got a bigger promotion, or they got something better, or try to bring their own news. There's just this rivalry, this competition. Like, I feel life has enough challenges, and you don't need to choose people who will come into your life and make it more challenging. Having people who constantly put you in this state of competition is unhealthy and it's unwise. Yes, it is good to have friends that inspire us. It's good not to be the star, the only star. You're the only one working. You're the only one having a good job, the only one having a good everything. That is not even healthy either. However, you should be with people that inspire you, but are not competing with you. They are great with celebrating your wins, no matter how small. They are okay with coming to your little apartment without making you feel little, and coming there and crying with you if you're going through something. They are okay with just being there with you and accepting you for who you truly are. Those are the kind of relationships you need to aspire for, and the type where you feel like there's some competition are the types that you need to start avoiding. Number 5, avoid relationships where your boundaries are not respected. What are boundaries? Boundaries are the way we allow people to treat us, are those things we tolerate, the standards we have for ourselves and for others. It is very important that not only do we learn to create boundaries, communicate boundaries, it is extremely important that we have people in our lives who respect those boundaries. Because when someone does not respect your boundary, it means they don't respect you. So if I tell you I'm not comfortable with something, or I tell you that there are certain things you do that I'm not, it's not okay with me, and you keep doing them, what does that tell you? It tells you that my voice doesn't matter, my opinions don't matter, how I feel does not matter. And that means that this relationship probably does not matter. The sixth tip: avoid relationships where you struggle to communicate. Communication is an integral part of every relationship. I have been in relationships where I feel like I didn't feel safe to speak. I didn't feel safe to express my voice. I've been in situations or even work relationships, in work environments where I couldn't express how I felt about certain things. And one thing I have learned is that being around people or in relationships or in environments where you struggle to communicate, maybe you're a naturally expressive person, and then suddenly you're counting your words, you're walking on eggshells, you're scared, you're scared to speak, you're scared to talk, you're scared to just, say what you want to say. That is a toxic relationship. That is not a healthy relationship. And that is the kind of relationship we need to avoid in your life. The seventh tip I'm sharing with you is avoid relationships where there is a fear of being judged. Do you ever feel like, okay, not only can I not express myself, I am scared that if I express myself or if I express my truest self, they're going to judge me, they're going to criticize me. A lot of people are trapped in those kind of relationships. And when you are, then it's not a relationship, it's a prison. The world can judge you, but the places you call your safe spaces, which should be your relationships, whether it's with your family or your partner or the people you call your friends, they should be safe spaces. So if I cannot be myself, if I cannot say how I truly feel, if I cannot share my beliefs with you, if I cannot share my values, because I'm afraid you're going to judge me, I'm afraid you're going to see me in some light, I'm afraid that you're not going to accept me, then probably I shouldn't be there in the first place. The eighth tip I'm going to share with you, and this is a very important one: avoid relationships where there is no room for growth. So many people in romantic relationships who went ahead and got married look at their partners a couple of years later and they're like, I can't recognize this person. How did I end up with this kind of person? And they were at that level sometime in their life, but guess what? They grew and the other person did not grow. That is a recipe for disaster. Now, let's talk about friendships. There are relationships that force you to stay the same. These are not healthy relationships. There is no room for growth. There is no room for you to, experience some form of transformation. There is no room for personal development. There is no room for you to become a better version of yourself. Because if you try to be that, they will pull you back to who you were before. I actually had someone tell me that he was in a relationship with someone and he was trying to quit some things he was doing that was not really helpful to him, some vices. And guess what? It was his partner who told him that, that discouraged him most because that was what she wanted from him. Now, that was a relationship that there was no potential for growth. He wanted to be a better person, but she was holding on to the version of him that that she met, and that was the version of him she wanted to continue, right? But he wanted more, and guess what? Of course that relationship is not going to hold. What some of us do is that in a bid not to lose this relationship, we hold on to these people, and guess what happens? We don't grow, we get stagnated, our life gets stagnated. The ninth tip I have for us today is avoid relationships where ideas and opportunities are not discussed. I remember sending a message to a friend once and I told him, anytime I see an opportunity for you, I always send it your way. I send a screenshot. Why? Because you're on my mind. I know this is something that will benefit you. But you never do that for me, and that is a problem. It means that you do not hold me in the same vibration that I do hold you. I have said that to a couple of people. Thinking back at it right now, I remember I've said it to a few people over time. Some of us only have friends that want to hang out with us, that want us to go to the club, and then you call this person your close friend. But when they have like a business opportunity, when they have seminars, your name doesn't come up. They don't remember you. And that is the beauty of compartmentalization. So when I have someone who constantly does that, or when I see that you're just the kind of person that when it comes to maybe you go for your seminars and this is something I may be interested in, but it did not flash through your mind. You know what I just do? I just tell myself, okay, you're the kind of person I can sit and gist with. I just say you're the kind of person I can have conversations with or maybe hang out with, but you're definitely not the kind of person that I should, say this person is truly, truly my friend. Because if you're my friend, then we should be able to grow together. We should be able to discuss opportunities. We shouldn't just be discussing about men, about fashion, about things that don't really add value to us. We should be able to have healthy conversations, whether it's about religion, spirituality, emotional awareness, politics, whatever it is. But we should be able to discuss things that will empower us, right? And look out for each other. There's this story of a young man who added a lady as his referee, and this woman was someone he had an amazing relationship with, right? Guess what? The company that wanted to hire him decided to call the lady, and she spoke really bad about him. And then they called him and they said, this woman, is she really your referee? Does she really know you? And he had a lot of positive things to say about her. He said, yes. And so they decided to do it again. And this time they did it for him to see. And before they did that, he called the lady and asked if they had any issues, if there was any problem between them. And she's like, no, oh no, of course not, and all of that. And he said, okay. Guess what? The company did the same thing again, and this time he was present. And they called the lady, and she had nothing good to say about him. In other words, she was not the kind of person that was interested in his growth, in him making any progress in life, in him having any opportunities or advancements. A lot of us have those kind of people around us. And I think that when you're already with the kind of people where you can't even discuss those kind of things, guess what they are going to do? They are never going to be able to suggest opportunities or ideas for your growth and development. These are the kind of relationships you need to avoid. The last but not the least tip: avoid relationships where you are always the giver. This is so important. Many of us are overgivers. Some of us have people pleasing tendencies. Some of us have messiah complex. And what that makes us do is that we're constantly in the state where we're always trying to help the other person, we're always giving, and most likely asking for nothing in return. You'll find out that there are a lot of relationship dynamics. It could be with a friend, it could be with a partner, it could be with anybody, it could even be a work relationship, but you just find out that somehow you're always on the giving end, the other person is always on the taking and receiving end, and always even making more demands and more demands. But the moment you ask them to do something really little, they come up with a million excuses of why they are unable to. And even if you say, okay, maybe I'm going to understand that you're busy at this time, and then you give them another chance, they're never trying to be there for you. They don't feel like they owe you that much. They are very quick to call on you for favors, for help, for anything. But even though you may be in a better position, maybe financially or in some way, I feel like someone who wants to genuinely give back will just look for ways to give back instead of just being a taker. They don't really have to do much, but there are certain people who cannot even give you their time. And maybe you give them all your time and give them all your resources and give them all of that. Some of us have had such experiences, or we know people who have had those kind of experiences. They were always give, they gave to stupor, and then when they needed help, there was no one to call. And even the people they called, the people they've always been there for, were nowhere to be found. It's important that you avoid this kind of relationships if you truly want to have a healthy circle, healthy relationships in your life. Because guess what? Whatever you tolerate, you actually are going to multiply in your life. So, do you want to have friends who are flaky, who you cannot count on, who are not dependable, who do not really care about you, who you cannot express yourself around, you cannot express your most authentic self around them? Or do you want to have friends who are loyal, who are dependable, who you can be around them and be authentic, communicate how you really feel, and you're not going to be judged, you're not going to be rejected? Which kind of relationships do you want? So that's it for me for today. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button, like it, and share with someone. I feel it is so important to get this message out there, because quality of a lot of people's lives will change immediately they start changing their relationships.